Hey everyone, welcome back to Retro Reel Recaps. Today, we're talking about the movie The Ghost and the Darkness. This is a true story about two lions that killed many people and turned a railroad project into a terrifying nightmare. The movie starts in London in 1898. We see Lieutenant Colonel John Henry Patterson, an Anglo-Irish engineer from the British Army, walking inside a building. He has an important one-on-one meeting. When he reaches the place, a conference has just ended. Soon, a man named Robert Beaumont greets him. Robert is the main investor in a big railway project in Tsavo, Kenya. He shakes John's hand and says his firm handshake shows confidence. Then he asks John to sit down. Robert wants John's help to build the most expensive and challenging railway in Africa's history. He tells John this railway will end slavery in Africa, but really, there are other hidden reasons for the project. Robert suddenly becomes serious and warns John, "Make one mistake, and I will make you hate me." He explains that Britain is competing with France and Germany, and the prize is control over Africa. To win, they must build a rail bridge over the Tsavo River in Kenya in just 5 months. John says he has never missed a deadline when building bridges. He also tells Robert he has always wanted to see Africa. Plus, his wife is pregnant, so he wants to return to London before the baby is born. But Robert acts rude and says he doesn't care about John's dreams or his family. Hearing this, John's expression changes. He stands up and sarcastically asks, "Any other words of encouragement?" Robert looks surprised but doesn't reply. John walks out angrily, saying he has a train to catch, while Robert just smiles. Next, we see John walking with his wife Helena outside Victoria Railway Station. They are heading to the train that will take him to Africa. Helena asks if Robert was happy to hire him. John says the meeting didn't go well, but Helena supports him. She tells him to go and prove himself. John loves Helena deeply and promises to finish the bridge and return before their baby is born in 6 months. Helena tells him not to worry. If he takes longer, she will come to Africa with their son. They hug each other. John says Africa is just a place, but his world is with Helena. She encourages him, saying he builds bridges and must go where the rivers are. They hug again, say goodbye, and Helena sadly watches him leave. Later, John arrives in Africa. After getting off the train, he walks on the platform, looking at the people and stalls. Soon, his British supervisor, Angus Starling, spots him. Angus will be helping John. He asks if Robert told John about him, but John says no. Angus jokes that Robert seems awful, but once you really know him, he's even worse. They both laugh. Then, they board a train to Tsavo. John and Angus sit in special seats at the front of the train, near the engine. Angus had reserved them earlier. John knows a lot about African wildlife, like giraffes, hyenas, and hippos. Even though Angus has lived in Africa for a year, Angus is surprised by John's knowledge. Their journey will take a full day and night. The next morning, the train arrives in Tsavo. John looks around at the workers as they get off the train. Angus calls for Samuel, who is the workers' camp liaison. John meets Samuel, a Kenyan foreman trusted by all the workers. John asks if Samuel speaks English, and Samuel replies that his English is good but his French is poor. John wants to see the bridge site right away. Angus leaves, telling Samuel to bring John to the hospital after they check out the bridge. Samuel takes John to the bridge site. On the way, John asks Samuel where he's from. Samuel points beyond the mountains. John looks at the sun, figures out which way is west, and jokes, pointing, "I'm from over there," surprising Samuel. Samuel explains that there are 3,000 workers, Indian and African, and they don't get along. He also says Tsavo is the worst place in the world. When John sees the bridge site, he realizes building it will be much harder than he thought, but he stays determined. Thinking of Helena, he tells Samuel he will build this bridge and bring the world together. Next, Samuel takes John to the field hospital, where Angus is handing out medicines. We learn that Angus is also a priest. As he preaches, Dr. David Hawthorne, the camp doctor, interrupts him. Dr. David introduces himself to John, but then says John has brought bad luck. He shows John a patient recently attacked by a lion, and tells him the lion problem must be dealt with immediately. Confident, John says he'll hunt the lion that evening. Later we see John loading his rifle. Angus doesn't want to join him, but John convinces him, saying he just needs to stay quiet. That night, they climb a tree and wait for the lion, using a donkey as bait. At midnight, a lion approaches the donkey. Angus is asleep, but John spots the lion. He quickly aims and fires, waking Angus, who falls out of the tree. But when Angus looks, he sees the dead lion beside him. John had killed it with one shot. The next morning, John and Angus proudly carry the dead lion back to camp. When the workers hear the lion is dead, they celebrate happily. They see now that John is willing to protect them. Dr. David is also impressed, and praises John as he walks by. Later, John assigns tasks for building the bridge's foundation piers to Angus and Mahina, a strong local foreman known for his power. Hearing about John killing the lion, Mahina boasts that he once killed a lion too. Angus asks how many shots it took, and Mahina says he did it with just his bare hands. John tells Angus to start work on the piers right away, but a strong wind blows the bridge plans away. Annoyed, John watches as Angus rushes to grab the papers. Just then, Mahina senses danger. He looks into the bushes. Something feels wrong. John feels it too. They exchange a look, both suspicious. Work on the bridge foundation begins, and the workers are eager and excited. Together, they make progress, and John is pleased. Mahina looks at John and makes a hand signal showing how he killed the lion. John signals back happily, but at the same time, a lion watches Mahina from the bushes. That evening, Samuel gives John a necklace made from the claws of the lion he killed. John thanks him. Then John writes a letter to his wife, saying building the bridge in Tsavo takes more determination than skill. He also mentions Mahina, who helped him a lot with the foundation piers. That night, when everything seems calm, Mahina is suddenly dragged from his tent by a lion and brutally killed. The next morning, John and Samuel find Mahina's badly torn body. Dr. David examines it and says this doesn't look like a normal lion attack. Lions don't usually eat this way. During Mahina's funeral, all the workers are terrified. They can't believe even the strongest man among them was killed by a lion. John decides to hunt the lion again and sets up another nighttime hunt. But this time, he finds nothing. The next morning, Abdullah, the leader of the Indian workers, and others refuse to work because they're too scared of the lions. At the same time, Angus tells John they found another worker's body at the far end of the camp. John promises the workers he'll kill the lion, but he needs their help. To protect everyone, he has them build thornbush fences around all the tents to keep lions out. The workers spend the whole day building the fences. Angus hurts his hands while working on the fences. That night, as he cleans them, he tries to preach to John and Samuel, but they just laugh at him. We learn Samuel has 4 wives. After finishing the fences, the workers go back to work. But hidden in the bushes, a lion waits for the right moment to attack. A few days later, Samuel brings John a letter. John is happy because it's from his wife, Helena. Samuel asks if John likes his wife, and John says he loves her very much. As John walks away to read the letter, Samuel mutters to himself, "I don't like any of my wives." Everyone is working peacefully until suddenly, the same lion that had been hiding in the bushes attacks the camp, killing several workers. Hearing the screams, John grabs his guns and runs toward the chaos. John, Angus, and Samuel corner the lion while it's eating one of the victims. But then a second lion jumps down from a rooftop, slashing John's left arm. John recovers and tries to shoot them, but both lions escape. They soon discover Angus has been killed, his throat torn open by the lions. Now they realize they're not dealing with just one lion, but 2 man-eaters. Most workers start leaving the camp, stopping all bridge construction. John begs Abdullah to make them stay, but the workers are too scared. At first, Abdullah refuses, so John calls him a coward. This trick works. Abdullah decides to stay out of pride. Around the same time, Robert arrives for a quick visit. John tells him about the lions and asks for soldiers to protect the workers, but Robert refuses. When Robert asks about Angus, he's shocked to hear he's dead. Samuel explains that 2 man-eating lions, called the Ghost and the Darkness, are killing people randomly. Robert, who looks down on Africans, ignores Samuel and asks John what his plan is. He's stunned to hear 30 workers have already been killed. After checking the bridge progress, he threatens John. If the bridge isn't finished on time, he'll ruin John's reputation. Robert doesn't care about the workers' lives. John then shows Robert his plan to trap and kill the lions, a contraption he learned to build while hunting tigers in India. But Robert doesn't trust John's idea. Instead, he says he'll bring in a famous hunter, Charles Remington, to help kill the lions since John has failed so far. Robert leaves with another warning, leaving John worried. That night, John writes a sad letter to his wife, Helena. He tells her the workers now believe all these deaths are his fault because the lions never attacked the camp before he arrived. The next morning, John trains some of the workers, who are also criminals, how to hunt. He tells them they'll spend the night in the contraption he built. That night, the workers wait inside the trap behind bars, hoping the lions will come. Surprisingly, it works. One lion gets trapped inside. But when the workers see how angry the lion is, they panic. They shoot wildly but don't even hurt the lion. Seconds later, the lion escapes. The next morning, John yells at the workers for failing to kill the trapped lion. Abdullah then curses John, saying the devil has come to Tsavo. He and the other workers turn against John, threatening to attack him. Just then, Charles Remington, the hunter Robert hired, appears and puts a gun to Abdullah's head. Scared, Abdullah tells the workers to back down. Charles pushes Abdullah away, warning he'll kill him if he disobeys. Samuel and Charles then hug. Surprising John, they already know each other. Soon after, Charles calls for his team, skilled Maasai warriors. Everyone is shocked to see them at the camp. John thanks Charles for saving him. He tells Charles over 40 people have been killed by the lions, which surprises Charles. Charles tells John to follow his lead, and John agrees. They promise to work together to kill the lions quickly. When Charles sees the hospital tent, he insists they build a new one. Dr. David doesn't want to move, but Charles is firm. He believes the smell of blood and sick people is what draws the lions near the camp. He forces Dr. David to accept his plan. That night, John, Samuel and Charles sit together, planning how to kill the lions. Charles says he wants Samuel with him during the hunt. When Dr. David arrives, Charles mentions he's heard about John killing a lion with one shot. Impressed, he invites John to join him the next day. A Maasai warrior then asks Charles to join their dance. As Charles gets up, he tells Dr. David and John he doesn't enjoy killing lions. He only does it because he's good at it. While Charles dances with the Maasai, Samuel shares his story. He tells Dr. David and John that Charles is from America and lost his whole family, parents and siblings, in the Civil War. After burying them, he left America forever, but keeps returning to Tsavo because he believes Africa is the last good place on earth. Later, Dr. David trades guns with John, saying his is more powerful. He asks Samuel why Charles wants him along if he's such a good hunter. Samuel says it's because Charles knows he's afraid of lions. Meanwhile, we see the Maasai warriors performing traditional dances and rituals with Charles. The next morning, Charles spots one of the lions in the bushes. He splits his team into two groups to surround the area. He tells John to go to higher ground for a clear shot if the lion tries to run. They move in slowly. As they get closer, the lion suddenly appears right in front of John. John aims his gun, but disaster! The borrowed gun jams. The lion walks toward John, ready to attack, and John is terrified. Charles sees the lion approaching John and whispers, "Shoot him! Shoot him!" He doesn't know John's gun failed when John doesn't fire. Charles shouts and shoots at the lion, scaring it away. He runs to John, asking what happened. Samuel explains John was using Dr. David's gun, making Charles angry. He scolds John for using an untested gun in a dangerous situation. The Maasai warriors, now afraid of the lions, decide to leave. But Charles stays with John and Samuel. Back at camp, sick and injured workers are moved to the new hospital tent. Charles and John fill the old hospital with animal parts and blood to attract the lions. At first, it seems the lions fall for the trap, but instead, they attack the new hospital, killing many patients. When Dr. David hears the attack, he rushes to help. Samuel tries to stop him, but Dr. David bravely runs inside. Charles and John arrive too late. The lions have already killed Dr. David and many others. The next day, Abdullah and all the workers leave camp on the train. Only John, Charles, and Samuel remain. John and Abdullah exchange looks, but John says nothing. He failed to protect them. Later, John and Charles stand near the unfinished bridge. Charles finds fresh lion tracks leading to the mountain, so they follow them. As they walk, Charles tells a story about two brothers who bullied him as a child. One brother went to jail, and the other stopped bullying. Charles means that if they kill one lion, the other will be easier to deal with. After climbing uphill, they find the lion's den. Lighting lanterns, they enter and discover piles of human bones. Charles realizes the lions aren't just hunting for food, they're killing for fun, which makes them even more dangerous. That evening at camp, John comes up with a new plan. He decides to build a machan, a hunting stand he learned to use in India for tigers. The next morning, John builds the machan, and Charles gives John his pistol in case he needs it. Since it's John's idea, he sits in the machan, while Charles waits in a nearby tree. Later, John tests the machan to make sure it works. As night falls, we see Charles hiding in a tree, Samuel hiding in a building, and John sitting on the hunting stand. A baboon is tied up in the open area, hoping to attract the lions. At first, everything goes according to plan. One lion comes for the baboon and kills it. But when John tries to shoot the lion, he falls from the hunting stand. The lion leaps at John, but John quickly pulls out the pistol Charles gave him, and wounds the lion. Later, John and Charles search the jungle for the injured lion. Suddenly, the wounded lion jumps down from a ledge onto John. But just in time, Charles shoots and kills it before it can hurt John. That night, John, Charles, and Samuel drink and celebrate. Charles is happy because now the other lion is alone and scared for the first time. Charles goes to sleep, but John has a nightmare in his dream. All the workers return, and the bridge construction continues. Helena arrives with their newborn son, making John overjoyed. But then, the remaining lion attacks and kills Helena and their son. John wakes up disturbed. He steps outside to wash his face, but notices Charles's tent is torn apart. He and Samuel soon discover the last lion has killed and eaten Charles. They cremate Charles's remains and burn the tall grass around the camp, forcing the lion toward their trap. John decides to face the last lion alone. He tells Samuel to leave. Angry, John walks onto the half-built bridge, firing his gun into the air. Samuel starts walking away when suddenly the lion appears. John shoots but drops his gun. He realizes the lion is close, maybe under the bridge. Samuel turns back. John pulls out his pistol as the lion charges from beneath the bridge. John runs while Samuel tries to shoot but can't get a clear shot without hitting John. After a long chase, John climbs a tree. The lion starts climbing after him. Samuel climbs another tree nearby to help and throws his rifle to John. But John misses, and the rifle falls. With no other choice, John jumps down to get it. Just as the lion leaps at him, John grabs the rifle and finally kills the lion. In the final scene, Nigel Bransford, Angus's replacement, arrives at the bridge and greets John by saying, "John, The Lion Killer. Back at camp, Abdullah and the workers return. This time, Helena arrives with their son. John reunites with his wife and meets his baby for the first time. Overjoyed, he hugs Helena and lifts his son in the air as Helena watches them happily. And that's the end of the story. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.